Right, what about this then? Since I referenced Jensen on Dignitas, who is one of the best players I've ever seen on a last place Elo held team, dude, the other guy who can beat him in that regard has got to be fucking Jankos this split. Bro, this is making me sick. If you look at the last split and this split so far, you know what? People can think this is haters. I'm going to say it out loud. I think Jankos is better than people like Yike, mate. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I don't care that his team loses every game. Mate, what he is doing in some of these losses, there's another reason why veterans, if they're true veterans who've won and been great players, have extra value. Not only is Jankos hit the nameplates of just a really good jungler right now, bro, he never gives up. He never gives up. It doesn't matter how shit the draft is, the early game, the game state. He's locked in like this was like world semis and you're trying to fight for your life, you know, like, and he's doing it in games on a team where, let's be real, they're probably not going to make the next phase. And quite frankly, after this, there's no reason to have any hope in Heretics at all. Those are some bullshit wins they had in spring, guys. Like, those weren't even replicable. And so you look at this team, he is one of the best players I've ever seen be Elo held, mate. Like, I think for real, no joke, if it wasn't for the fact they never win any games, he should even almost be like an MVP candidate, mate. It's mental how well he's playing this team. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's part of the reason I flame Evie so hard is because I like Jankos, and I see him just getting into perma by this guy. Like, and it looks intentional. The thing about Evie is he's such a nice guy. We're turning the Jankos positive into Evie flame, by the way, but. Evie's such a nice guy that when he dies 11 times on Sion, I can't even give him the excuse where it's like, oh, he's just tilted. Like, he's like kind of doing it on purpose. You know how you saw some top laners like Ale, for example. Ale did this one game. You could see that he was mega tilted. He just trolled the game and he was benched back when his name was Natural. And he just never got to play again for his team. Like, he just had to end up like coming back under a different ID for a different team later on. I don't even give Evie that credit. I think he's actually trying. I think he's trying and he's just this bad. He's just 0-11 because he doesn't know how to frontline. He doesn't know how Sion works. He doesn't know how Sion Q interacts with the enemy team. It's so hard to watch Jankos go through this because Jankos does so much for the team. He just gets people ahead, and then they just fucking. I mean, they just shit on him right afterwards. It's like, oh yeah, you gave me a lead. Okay, I'm gonna throw it immediately. For what? Like, why can't we just let Jankos win when he plays well? Like, what is wrong with you guys?
Like, actually, the reason why I did the contrast with Yike is because I'm not joking, dude. When I watch Jankos play in Heretics, I start looking at the table and I'm like, bro, there's only basically like one or two teams I wouldn't put him on right now. Like, essentially, the only people I don't think I would even consider replacing is like Elyoya, fucking Bo, maybe Yike. That's it, though. That's the list. Like, every other fucking team, I'll take Jankos immediately, mate. Even teams that don't make sense, he's just playing so well. I believe he would find a way to adapt to them. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he wouldn't be the best stylistic fit for, like, Koi, for example, because he'd be a bit more, like, inspired. It wouldn't matter. He'd find a way to switch it up, and he'd just make it work for them as well. Like, this guy's too good. He's in the last place team, guys. He's too fucking good, mate. This is so gross.
I mean, I think he's still the best. I don't know. There's no reason for me to not think he's the best.
No, here's what I would say. This is an example. I've said this many times, but people never do it. But I genuinely, if you're like an actual expert, if you're a content creator watching this episode and you believe that we're overhyping Jankos, I'm telling you, just bring up a VOD and do a VOD review from Jankos. Look at what Jankos does. Just follow him and tell me all the mistakes he does, because you'll have a hard time, mate. I even have some pro friends I've messaged like, what did you think of this move? And the amount of times that they can give me like a valid explanation as to like why he did something, it's like, fuck it. I'm not joking, guys. It's unbelievable how well he's playing on this dog shit team. I mean, the other thing is fucking bad. Let's be real. Like I said, Dom, they've got Jankos, and the problem is he can't prop up those lanes. And then they essentially all they do is they sit there, and 1 out of every 4 games, Jack Spectre has a pop off. That's it. That's the Rex in a nutshell. That's it. Like, there's nothing else to see. I don't even hate on Jack Spectre. He seems all right, but he's not a top player. And that's your 1 win condition. Like, bloody hell, guys. What?
It's sad to watch, because here's the other thing that people don't do is people will find mistakes that Jankos makes, and then they'll be like, oh, like, see, he did make a mistake, so he deserved to lose. No, it's just that when Jankos makes a mistake, they instantly lose. Whereas other players on top teams, like you saw Bo had to run it down like 8 times in a row for Vitality to lose the game. He had to keep on inting. He didn't get to just make one mistake. He made like 5 mistakes in a row, 6 mistakes. Then he's like inting a whole team fight. Like, you gotta make so many mistakes to lose a game, like if you're on G2 or Vitality.
Yes.
But for Jankos, he makes 1 mistake in a team fight, the whole game is lost because he has nothing to fucking work with.
Here's the thought exercise, dude. This thought exercise will make my whole point for me, right? Remember, because the Yike guy is himself a fairly inexperienced ERL player, Dom, there's a world where he might have ended up on a team like a Heretics or a BDS or something. Those are the sorts of teams typically the rookies go into. I mean, we even know in the offseason they were trying to get Elyoya into G2, not Yike. So if they'd have ended up in a scenario, Dom, imagine this scenario. Imagine instead of Jankos in Heretics, Yike's in Heretics, playing with Peter Dunn. Guys, he would look way worse in these fucking games. Way worse. 100%. In fact, he would just... Some of these games, by the way, I even think this would be really shit because we've seen him in G2 look really good now. He would actually look terrible in Heretics because some of these game states, like, what do? You have to be an insane veteran to even have an idea of a game plan to get out of the bloody hole that, like, Evie digs you into, and Ruby's doing nothing the whole game, by the way. Like I say, like, that would actually probably have ruined someone like Yike if they'd come into LEC, mate. It would just make everyone think he's bad because, remember, jungle is the ultimate role to look bad from when you're really good. If your players on your team int you with shit, the draft's terrible, like, it's probably the most hard-capped role in the game by other factors, right? That aren't in your control.
Yeah, I would love to see Heretics without Jankos. I think they would literally not win a game. I think they would just actually just be 0-9 without Jankos on the team. And you can replace it with like any even jugglers like Elyoya. I don't give Elyoya the credit for being in a team like this. The thing about other players is, like, Elyoya was really good when he came in as a rookie, but it's also just so much easier to be good when you're playing with other great players. Yep. Like, you play in the best team, people are covering your mistakes all the time. I experienced this myself as a player. Like, when I joined Dignitas, I was like, holy shit, maybe I'm just the shit. Like, I joined a top team and we're winning all the time. Like, I must just be, like, good enough. And then I got to experience playing on a 6th place team with when I got to Curse, and how hard it was to get a 6th place team to even 4th place. Like, it was so much harder to do that than just win with a fucking winning team. When lanes are losing, when there's no vision on the map and you don't know where you can fucking walk, and you have to be so smart about everything. Like, you have to learn the game in such a detailed way compared to when you have, like, Hans Sama smurfing on Draven, and, like, Mickey and Hans are just, like, running, like, just killing the fucking bot lane. It's like, oh, I'll go to the bot lane that's dying, you know?
Dude, you'll know the clip. What was that clip you've shown on stream in the past where you were playing in a pro game with someone at support? I can't remember who it was. And I think it is, you know the one I'm talking about, where you're, like, right up in your top jungle and he just, like, pings that he's going in on the bot, and it's like, you're in your, like, top jungle, and he pings, like, bot lane that he's, like, going in as though you can just teleport there, like, instantly. And it's like, here's the other thing, bro, because he did it, like, to tell you to come, right?
Yeah, this is the thing. This is the thing about playing with a bad. Like, it's League, right?
Sounds like a pro game. I was even thinking how tilted you must be when that happened.
This is the thing about League. When you're playing jungle, it's not just like, oh, I'm playing versus the other guy and my lanes aren't doing well. It's that their jungler is now way stronger than me because he's getting free kills on my fucking lanes. So it's so much harder to play from the point that, like, that Jankos is playing from when it's just like, yeah, my Sion just died 11 times. You know how much fucking gold he just gave, like, 11 times?
I know.
That's 3K gold. Like, he's just dead permanently. How the fuck are you supposed to play that game? It's so hard to actually play from losing positions. You have to outplay so hard in every single instance. Jankos is so incredibly elo held. It's, I mean, and the thing that's crazy is you look at his stats.
He has some of the best stats in the league. It's insane, isn't it?
He has some of the best stats in the league when he's on one of the worst teams in one of the roles that gets punished.
From that role, that should never be possible, right? That should never be possible.
Yes. No, Jankos is just the fucking GOAT. He's too good.
No, if people don't know, I've got the list here, right? He is first in kills per game, first in damage percent in jungle, this is. First in damage per minute, first gold difference at 15 minutes, first blood participation, first in solo kills. Guys, remember I just compared him to Yike, and you're all thinking, because you're fucking peon plebs who watch the win screen and say victory and think that every player must be better. You're all the same people who told me Flackhead was better than Upset, you fucking marks. So you hear those stats I just read out. Why aren't those Yike stats? He's playing in the best team where every other player, minus maybe Broken Blade, is the best at their role. Give me a fucking break. Like, it's not to... Here's what they still don't get, Dom. I've yet to hate on Yike in this segment. This is about contrasting him with a reasonable example to show that someone in the best team maybe isn't even playing as well, or has an easier... It's better to say it, you, sir. It has an easier set of circumstances. Doesn't have these nightmare quadratic equations to solve on the fly without a fucking piece of paper, as it were, you know, like...
Yeah, and it's like... The thing that people care about is the mechanics of the player. Like, how do they maneuver their champion, and they just like think the other part of it is like, oh, well, if you have the mechanics, the rest of it is easy to learn, so then you'll be able to like perform, which is that was not the way.
Dude, that was one thing I have to give myself credit for, because I nailed this ages ago. I've told this story before, but I did this video for Real Dom in like season 5 or 6 or something. I made a video called the mechanical jungler like paradox or like flaw or fallacy. I think it was fallacy maybe. And the premise was, because I based it off, if people know, it's funny now because he's the opposite player. But back in the day, all Peanut had was the Lee Sin mechanics. He was just a cracked Lee Sin player back when he was on Najin and all those teams in Rocks eventually. But he didn't have any of the brain. And if he wasn't basically feeling it on his champion, he could just throw the whole game in a big playoff series. And so I remember thinking the same thing. What everyone was doing was what you're talking about, Dom. I'll go from the other side, though. What they do is they see the old, broken down jungler like Xmithy, the brain jungler, and they go, oh, it's like weak side. He just does that because he's not mechanically good. And then they assume that everyone mechanically good is equally game knowledge and understanding the map and the ganks and wave. But that's the problem. The joke is, it's actually the other way around. It's way more likely someone could just have good mechanics than have all the other shits, the shit you have to acquire from being in teams and understanding the game and working with coaches and laners. Like, that's the part that's worth its weight in gold. And obviously Jankos has all that, mate. The good news is this. The one good news I think is this. Surely everyone else in the league has to be seeing this and acknowledging it and seeing it in scrims. Like, surely he's going to get out of this elo hell, though. You know what I mean? Surely this has got to be the player someone buys. Come on.
I mean, I hope that this was just a place that he could go so he got out of the G2 contract.
Yes.
Because he needed to find somebody who was willing to pay the buyout.
He did. Yeah, he just be on the bench right now and everyone forget about him. You're right, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully now he can go to a good team. This is what I would say. A player like Razork is way closer to a player like Yike in terms of skill than a player like Yike is compared to a player like Jankos. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're both actually just skilled players, yeah. But obviously they struggle in the other areas to some degree.
Shit team. That's the thing, is like you can be mechanically skilled and be in a bad team, but then like you see how Razork is, where you're like, what the fuck is he doing? He's inting. What is he doing? Like, oh my god, why would he go for this? It's because of the circumstance of the game, like the pressure of everyone, like the game feeling like it's doomed, and then trying to suss out like you have like 5 different options to choose from. None of them look good. They're all probably losing, and you have to try to pick the best one. It's an impossible puzzle to solve. It's like, okay, my bot lane's losing, mid lane has no TP, this guy's fucking dead in Half-Life, this objective is up, that objective is just finding the right thing to do in those circumstances when you have no vision and there's no pressure on the map is so hard.
Yes. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.